Hey there friends, it's Meghann Andrew and welcome to the Gina K Designs YouTube channel today. I'm going to be using the Sweet Celebrations card kit again today, but this time I'm pulling a few things out of my stash to pair with it. That not only allows you to have more possibilities with your kit, but it feels really good when you pull out that kit again to create with it. As crafters, I know we all love that feeling. So I'm going to show you how I created this card using a stencil from my stash, pairing it with the kit. I'm going to be doing some ink blending and some stamping and a bit of die cutting too. It's a really fun card, and I got inspired by the cards that I had already created with this kit to use the same color scheme. So I hope you love this video. If you want to see more, I hope you'll join me this Friday at noon Eastern Time on my YouTube channel, as I'm going to be creating with more Gina K Designs products. Now let's get to this card creation. We've had our Sweet Celebrations card kit for a little while now, and I wanted to bring it to new life with some products that were in my stash. So on release party night, I created a set of 3 cards that I just love so much, and you can see that video on my YouTube channel. But I wanted to use these as inspiration to create one more card, but then pull some products from my stash. So let me show you what I'm using today. I'm sorry to say that the Layered Candles art stencil has been in my stash for some time, but I haven't had the chance to use it. And since the Sweet Celebrations card kit is more of a celebratory and birthday themed kit, what better stencil to pull out than this candle stencil? And it is so fun. So what I did was I grabbed similar colors to what I used on my cards before, so that it's just another coordinating card. This also means that I don't have to come up with another color scheme. I'm using one that I know I already love that will coordinate with the cards that I already made. So I have my grip mat here. I'm going to put my paper down horizontally. Okay, I want my candles to fully take up the A2 piece of white cardstock here. I'm going to start with the more solid stencil. So it's a stencil 1, Layered Candles 1. And I'm going to put this about 1/2 inch from the bottom and just make sure it's centered. Now I am ultimately going to trim this out, so it doesn't matter if it's perfect for this occasion. So I didn't pull out too many colors here, because I'm going to be using the same color 2 different ways many times on these candles. So first, I'm going to start with Passionate Pink. And Passionate Pink is a really bright, vibrant pink, but I'm going to tap off and really lightly go in here with that color. I'm not even going to tap the ink pad again. I'm just going to go over it really lightly. Now, one little trick I have when you're doing a series of colors on the same stencil, it's always best to stick with the same color before moving on. It makes the process go much faster than if you were having to wipe off your stencil, change your tape. It just makes a big difference. So I highly suggest that if you're using 2 or 3 different colors, to just focus on one color at a time. Okay, so I am doing the same candle in Passionate Pink across this design, really nice and light. I love this like really fun candle pattern. It's kind of geometric. It's just very playful and whimsical, and it makes me really happy. Okay, let's go in here. Okay. There we go. Perfect. So what I'm going to do now is with a dry cloth, I'm going to just really gently wipe this up and down so that any excess pink ink will go into that pink candle area. Okay. All right. Now we can switch to our next color, and we are going to use butterscotch. I'm going to close up my passionate pink, kind of move that to the side, and cover up the candles on either side. And notice here that I am flipping my tape so the pink part of the tape is not going next to the candle. Okay, I'm going to go in with my yellow brush here. Also going to wipe off any excess ink from my desktop too. Again, going to go in light here. I'm not going to use too much color because I'm going to use the same color again in the darker areas on this candle. There we go, nice and light. There we go. And then I'm going to wipe off just ever so gently, straight up and down. Okay, I've used pink and yellow here. I'm going to change my tape, and I can always use that tape again for die cutting. I'm going to change it. Now you can do the same thing if you're using a Post-it note. I know that Gina loves to use Post-its for this kind of occasion. I would just switch it out between colors or switch out the sides. Okay, I'm going to go in here with Ocean Mist. I really like this teal. This is the one color that I'm going to switch back and forth between teal and darker teal. So this Ocean Mist is a little bit lighter than the Blue Lagoon that I'm going to use later. Okay, so I'm going in lightly with Ocean Mist. Ocean Mist is a really nice bluey kind of teal. It's a beautiful color. There we go. And one more. Now notice that I didn't cover up my candle flames up here, and that's because I thought that they were far enough away that I wouldn't color them in by accident. If you are an aggressive blender, sometimes I am, I would say to cover those up if you are stenciling this on a background that you're not going to cut out. Okay, let's take a look at this reveal. Lovely, nice and light because we want to go in with some darker colors next. Okay, let's put on stencil number 2, and this is going to line up with everything that we just did, adding stripes to the solids, adding the dots to the white dot areas, adding those horizontal lines to the teal solid. And here's the difference here. I'm going to switch to my smaller brushes because this is going to make a huge difference in how dark that color is. So not only is the amount of ink you use going to make a difference, but also the size of your brush. When you switch to that smaller brush, you get a higher concentration of bristles there in one place, and then you can really get a darker color of ink. So even by using the same color, it just looks much darker. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wipe that off. notice I'm using the tape from before. Okay, going in again with Passionate Pink here. Okay, wiping that off. Trying to clean everything off in between because you have a lot less chance of getting smudges and smears if you get that excess ink off right away. Okay, let's go in with Passionate Pink again. And the last one. There we go. Let's wipe that off. And then we're going to switch back to butterscotch. So I'm going to cover up my pink and blue areas, switching to the yellow side of the tape. And I'm going to switch out my ink stand. I have both cubes and large ink pads, so I'm sure a lot of you guys do the same in your stash too. Okay, switching to my smaller yellow brush, and I'm really going to go in here with the butterscotch. When you go darker with the butterscotch, it almost looks like an orangey yellow. So this is really going to show up more on those polka dots. I'll wipe that off. I love that bringing one of your older products in to pair with your new kit, it just adds life to what you already have in your stash, and it gives you just so much more, more value when you're using that kit again, incorporating it with what you already have. It's just a good feeling as a crafter, and I love that. Okay. So there's our yellow done. Now let's switch to Blue Lagoon this time. So instead of using Ocean Mist and going a little bit darker, I know that Blue Lagoon will give me that darker teal that I really want. So I'm just going to switch over. So you don't always need to have the next color up, as I've shown you here with Passionate Pink and Butterscotch. And we'll see that in the reveal. Okay. Now this is really nice and deep, this Blue Lagoon. It's gorgeous. Okay, I'm going to give that a good wipe. Let's give this one a little bit of love. Give it those stripes. And give that one a wipe. And one more and we can finally see these candles revealed. Okay. Alrighty, here we go. Let's take a look. How fun is that? I just think that that is so cute. And I love how it already coordinates with the cards that I created using the kit. So now I'm just going to clean off my stencils so that I can move on to the candle flames. So for my candle flames, I wanted a slightly brighter shade of yellow than what I used before. So I'm placing my flames down, just making sure those all line up okay. There we go. There is a little bit of room at the top, so if you are not trimming down this panel, just cover that up with some tape. I'm not too worried about it. I'm using Marigold here. This is a nice brighter yellow. So I'm going to kind of go from one side. I know we always say wax on, wax off, but in this case, I want that darker side to be on the left. So I'm intentionally making that left side darker on all the candle flames. Okay, let's take a look at that. So fast. See how great that looks? And that darker edge is on the left side every time. So you don't always have to wax on, wax off if you don't want to. Okay, next for the smaller portion of the flame, I'm going to line that up. And I'm going to use sweet mango here. Now I'm going to do the same technique, kind of coming in from the left side every time. So that it's just darker on the left. Oh, that looks fantastic. Okay, take a look at this panel. This is such a fun stencil set, and I think it's perfect to use with this card kit. From the Sweet Celebrations kit, I'm grabbing the Picture Perfect Frames die set, and I want to use this to put my candles inside the frame. So I don't actually have to die cut this out, because if I do, it will cut out the frame. But what I can do is get an idea of where my edges are and then cut this out myself. So I'm making sure that I'm kind of centered on the design so that my two pink candles are on the edges. And then I'm trimming around. Okay, so now we're going to have our candles in a nice frame. I'm going to grab a scrap piece of white, and then I can adhere this and run this through my intricate mini. So I have cut a total of 3 frames. I really love the way they look when they're layered up on each other. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these 3 frames together. It makes a really big difference when you have that extra bit of dimension on your card, and it's not too much. It's not like adding thick foam tape, but it just makes it look a lot nicer when you kind of layer things with cardstock. And then just use your fingers to make sure that those layers are nice and even. There we go. Then I can grab my ink blended panel, and before I adhere the frames to my panel, I'm going to make sure that those frames are nice and straight. And I'm also going to make sure that I don't need to trim anything off like I do here at the top, because it's much harder to trim things out once you have all your layers together. This is going to be so cute. Okay, let's put this on. going to make sure that that is nice and straight. There we go. Perfect. So now I have a cute little Polaroid of my ink blended candles. I very nearly forgot that I wanted to stamp on my Polaroid. So before I do anything else, I'm going to put it in my Misty with the grip mat, and then I'm going to grab Hope Your Birthday is Picture Perfect. This is going to look so cute on here. Now, when I have this kind of dimension and I'm stamping on top of it, I'm just going to be really careful to not push down too hard at all. Okay, so I'm going to get that in place. So this is going to be super gentle. I'm going to use Passionate Pink. Or maybe with all this color, I should use black. So I'm going to grab Black Onyx. I think that this is the better way to go. With all of these bright and bold colors, let's do a little bit of that nice contrast with black. Okay, just gently touching that down. Okay, that obviously didn't work, but it's too thick to go in. What I can do is add one more layer. So I'm just going to die cut my frame once more from white cardstock. Then we can stamp on that layer and then put it on top. Lining up that stamp with the opening, and let's go in again. Perfect. Okay, now we can put that back on our layered frame. We'll just have one extra layer, but that is totally okay with me. So I kept this part in the video just so you guys can see that I make mistakes too. I forget to do things in the right order, and sometimes I have to do things again. It's all part of the process, and everything is fixable. For my next step, I'm going back to the kit, and I'm using the Birthday Sprinkles stamp to create a tone-on-tone stamped background. So I have this focal point that I want in the center of my card. I'm going to have it slightly askew like that, so it looks like just a photo has been placed on the card front, but I want to have some designs behind it to really help this to stand out. So I'm going to use butterscotch cardstock. And to make this a little bit quicker, I can use both medallions at the same time, like so. So butterscotch cardstock and butterscotch ink. And that's going to give us that tone-on-tone look. So we're essentially going to create our own kind of pattern paper here. Look at that. It's so fun. Okay, now I know that when I get to the center, I don't have to worry about that part so much because my Polaroid frame is going to cover that up. So I'm mainly going to focus on the edges, making sure that I am going off of the edge of the cardstock. And before you move your stamp every time, you have to give it a good wipe, or else you could get some like phantom images when you put that stamp down. And doing both of these at the same time makes it go a lot faster. And if you want to keep checking to make sure that you're getting things placed where you want them to go, just keep putting that down. You can see that I've totally covered that one up, so I might stamp that again elsewhere. So then I'm going to put one up in this top corner and one right there. Going to do one more up there, and then I'm going to put the smaller one down here on the bottom. Sometimes I think we forget how fun it is to stamp a pattern, to stamp a design on a background. I feel like sometimes we forget about stamping, and I love stamping. Just want to get back to it sometimes. Okay, I'm going to do one more up in this top corner, like so, kind of coming out from the very corner. Perfect. Then I can go through and kind of add some stars and confetti. But to make that go a little bit faster, I'm just going to use an acrylic block. So just using an acrylic block, but keeping it on your Misty and having it on that surface that has that little bit of give to it really gives you a better stamped image. Okay, let's take a look. Oh my gosh, that looks so fantastic. I love this already. Okay, I'm going to do one right there. And I'm going to do another one right there. And last, I'm going to do the little kind of squiggle. Kind of the confetti squiggle. I'm going to do that around my stars. All right, so let's see if we're happy with the coverage there. I'm going to do a few more around the frame. Just to get a little bit closer. Oh, I love it. I think that is perfect. Love that background. And even though I've added all of that pattern, the center is still the focal point because of all that big pop of color and the contrast that you get with the white frame, the black text, but we've created this really beautiful frame around it with the butterscotch on butterscotch stamping, and I think it looks beautiful. Now that my background is done, I want to crop it slightly and I want to give it that really lovely stitched edge. So I'm going to use Master Layouts 14. I also think that I want to do what Gina does and add a tiny bit of black around this frame as well. So this is your opportunity to shift that die in any direction you choose to make the pattern better on the edges. I think that where I have it right here makes me pretty happy, so I'm going to go ahead and run that through my die cutting machine. Okay, now I'm going to adhere my butterscotch panel to a panel of black cardstock. And just give that the tiniest bit of margin here. And give this a trim. Just double checking before I bring that down. That is perfect. All right, so I have that tiny bit of black. And now I can add this to my folded card base. Oh, always need a refill when I'm doing a video. There we go, back in business. All right, now I'm going to get this centered and I'm going to stand up to make sure that I do. There we go. And because I have so many layers on here, I am not going to pop this up. There's plenty of dimension already. That is so fun. I love it. But I think it needs one more thing. So from the Picture Perfect frames, I used this little kind of tape die to die cut 2 passionate pink tape pieces. And I think that this is the perfect finish to this card. That adds that pop of color, again, right to that center point of the card, and just really brings out those pink colors that we used before. Now I can lay these right over the corner of my frame and glue those in place. I think adding these tape dies are just such a fun effect to these frames. Adds a little bit of color, another fun, interesting thing to look at on your card front. Because of the placement of my tape, there's kind of a diagonal line going this way through the card. That's the line that it's giving right now. So I'm using my clear quartz sequins on that diagonal line to add just that tiny bit of shine to both corners. I like to do things in 3s and 5s, so I'm doing 3 in the bottom and 2 at the top. There we go. How fun is that? I love it. So instead of just using the card kit on its own, I kind of breathed a little bit of new life into it. And that's the greatest thing to do, when you're waiting for the next Gina K release. Go through your stash and see what coordinates with your kit to kind of like give it a little bit more love. And you might be pulling things out of your stash that you haven't had a chance to use or you've forgotten about. So it's always a good idea to revisit what's in your stash and pair it with your current products. Thanks so much for joining me today as I shared how I am stretching my Sweet Celebrations card kit just that little bit further by adding the layered candles stencil to the products. I love the combination of these products, and it was so fun to pull a few things out of my stash to create with today. I hope it inspires you to dig through your Gina K Designs products and stretch your kit supplies a bit further. Be sure to shop all of the products that I shared in this video at the link below. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. And if this is your first time to the Gina K Designs YouTube channel, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of the amazing inspiration that Gina shares with you. I hope you'll head over to my YouTube channel, Meghann Andrew Creates, and follow me there. Thanks so much for watching, my friends, and happy creating.